So, first of all, I want to say good morning. It is July 3rd, the day before the 4th of July, 2025. It's about 6:10 a.m. as I'm recording this because, of course, I want to do so with opportunity during the summer break. For those of you that have followed me for 17 years, you know exactly what that means. Um, but I wanted to come on here because, and I do apologize also if I sound a little blown because I just woke up a little while ago, not too long ago, that is. But I wanted to come on here and talk about something that really is just bugging me. And I know a lot of people from JD from NY206 of Off the Script and Tucson A Titans along with Solamaster Sounds Off, and others like Alex Hicks, just Alex, A and B Convos, Good Mic Work, you name it. They've all come out and basically kind of given their own thoughts on this whole situation. That when a talent decides, they don't want to renew their contract with one promotion, all of a sudden the fans of that promotion, the die-hard fans, the hardcores, if you will, they start to get on the case that, they start basically doing a 180 on them. Like, one day they're all for them, and then they hear this news, and they're all of a sudden against them, and they're saying things that they didn't say before, and it's like, what's going on? And the latest talent to be put into that equation, the latest talent to be put in that equation is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Because we haven't seen Britt since, late fall last year. Especially after she was caught on camera telling Serena Deeb, when Serena Deeb came out to kind of start, I guess kick off and start off a feud or something with between them. She was caught on camera saying, nobody cares, nobody cares. And basically a lot of folks took that as an interpretation of her saying basically that none of the fans here in this arena, none of the fans at home or anywhere are going to care about you and me getting into a feud. Now, you got to remember, this is something that was happening just, right off the heels of her being embroiled in an on-screen feud, based on some legitimacy backstage between her and Mercedes. And and that during that Mercedes storyline, she was actually suspended legitimately for getting into it, behind the scenes with MJF and his girlfriend Alicia Atout. But with that said, a lot of people still stuck by her. Yeah, they criticized her for having a bit of an attitude, and she shouldn't be having that. But this is the one thing that's always hurt AEW in the eyes of a lot of people. That instead of having a balanced structure and those that, are not only in charge, but those that, will basically put to pasture these, kind of situations. Instead, talent like Britt Baker are allowed to say and do whatever they want with free reign and not face any true consequences unless somebody steps up and says, hey, you need to take care of this. So basically, the reason I bring Britt up is basically she has gone on social media and in her own way has made it clear that she wants out of AEW. And we know a lot of talent that has gone from AEW to WWE that was supposed to stick with AEW, a few years more contractually. But Tony Khan had released him from the contract because remember at one time he had said, hey, if you don't want to be here, I won't keep you here, I'll let you go. Although there have been several times that he's gone against that and it's made him look bad to the point that all across social media, people got on his case, not just fans, but insiders, those very close to him like Meltzer and Alvarez, and even the talent in the company and outside of the company, have gotten on him about, going against his word, which is why now he's what's the word I'm looking for? Regated, if you're regated, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. I guess that's the word. Regated, against, keeping talent, even if he doesn't use them. And instead he decides, okay, I need to, not regate against my promise of, hey, if you don't want to be here, I'll let you go. He decides he's going to regate against him regating against that, if that makes any sense. Like I told you this earlier, I do apologize. So, basically here you have, someone like Britt Baker, who, in the eyes of a lot of folks, has made it, in her own, own way, that she, her own, I wouldn't say abundant way, but her own, I guess you could say, very riddly way, very, I guess you could say, code word, whatever you want to put it, very cryptic way that she now wants out of AEW, because pretty much it's not the same. And there have been those that very reliable sources have talked to that have said, yeah, it's pretty much the case, she wants out. But now you have reports coming out that are negating, what has been already reported, of her wanting out. And that's what the message she put on social media indicates. They're saying, oh, no, that's not the case. She doesn't want out. No. She's got time on a contract until 2026, if not longer. It's like they're trying to quell the fire, and some people have memed it online. They're trying to quell the fire that's starting to burn out of control, if you will, with the potential of Britt basically, letting it be known in her own way, her own cryptic way, that she wants out. She wants out of the company. And, honestly, can you blame her with the fact that even though they have one of the best women's divisions in the world outside of WWE, that they're not utilizing women like her who have been there since day one to the full potential? Yeah, she's been women's champion. That's great. One of the longest reigning women's champs of all time. Don't get me wrong. And probably the most popular. She's had some very violent physical matches with the likes of Thunder Rosa and others. She's had it against Abaddon and everything. So she's been in the ring, not only as a champion, but she's been in the ring proving that she can go as hardcore as anybody else. And yet now you have a potential to, take her to that next level, to reestablish her as one of your top tier women, one of the women that, even though maybe microphone wise she's not that good, storyline wise she's perfect. She is, someone you could slot into an important storyline and it would work, or you could slot into what would be an important storyline, or at least could lead to it, and it would work. But, the one thing that holds her back in the eyes of a lot of folks is her attitude. And again, this goes back to what people say about Tony Khan not having that structure, that personnel structure behind the scenes to quell, these kind of things, to make sure people don't have these kind of attitudes. And that's what's causing a lot of folks that get put into that situation of, hey, it's their attitude, or they're not a team player, or they didn't agree with this or that. That's what's leading to those individuals wanting out, or they're not being utilized to the full potential. That's what's leading people to wanting, or leading these people, I should say, to want out, because of the fact that, it's because of the fact that they're not being given the opportunity to, do what they love to do, or be given be given the opportunity to explain their side of the story as to why they have an attitude, or why this happened, and so on and so forth. So, for Britt, for her to be the latest one, the latest OG, if you will, of AEW, day one-ish, if you will, to want out, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised she wants out, because of the fact that she sees that the grass that she thought was greener with AEW has now become brown and rotted. And that the grass, even though it's not healthy and shiny like the most award-winning gardens out there, over at WWE, she sees the opportunity that that is presented to her to help grow that garden into something even more beautiful. And you can't blame her for feeling this way, if you will. You can't honestly blame her, but yet you have fans now that would support her, even though they'd be critical about her attitude, and going against her now. And that's what I talked about by people at the beginning, when I said people who were fans of somebody in either AEW or WWE, You know, they were fans of them. They supported them no matter how cringe they were, no matter how bad they were, or whatever the case may be. And to when it came to the in-ring performance or the promos, they always supported them. But when that person says, "Hey, I want out. I want to go elsewhere," all of a sudden that attitude changes, and it's all because of one thing. It's all because of loyalty. This is something that pretty much was established back during ECW's run. That's right. Let's not forget, anytime somebody left ECW to go to WWE or WCW, what did the fans chant to them? Please don't go. Please don't go. Please don't go. Fans would chant, please don't go. And the reason they would chant that is because they had this belief that if they said please don't go, people like Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Shane Douglas, Taz, they would have basically taken the contracts of WCW or WWF and said, I'm sticking here. That's what they hoped for. That's what they hoped for, and that's why you have people, nowadays, these hardcore fans of WWE, AEW, TNA, MLW, you name it, when they go out and they hear, oh, this person has supported in this company for a long time is now heading this way, they're upset. They're mad because it's about loyalty. You are not supposed to abandon ship, in their opinion. You're not supposed to abandon ship, and yet, that's what's happening. That's what's happening and everything. Basically, in their eyes, these individuals are abandoning ship or wanting to jump ship over to the other ship, the more salvageable ship or the more profitable ship, all because of the fact that either they did everything they could in the company, they've accomplished everything they needed to, or they feel they're not being utilized, to the best of their abilities, and they see opportunity, on the other side shining a little bit more brightly for them to be part of. And they probably also see that, hey, the attitude I'm being accused of behind the scenes, I don't think I'll have that problem here. I don't think I'll be accused of attitude problems over here or having an attitude over here if they let me on board. If they take me in. And, that's the one thing these hardcore fans need to understand. Excuse me, that's the one thing these hardcore fans need to understand. It's not about the fact that the individual that's leaving is not appreciative of their time in AEW or TNA or MLW or New Japan or CMLL or AAA, or even WWE, or even in the past, ECW, WCW, AWA, NWA. It's not that they're not appreciative. They are. They're always going to carry that appreciation with them for life, whether they left on bad terms or not, or the contract came to expiration. They just wanted to go elsewhere, or they asked for the release and they got it. They're always going to appreciate and cherish that time, the positiveness that they had, the influence that they had, and it's something that you'll never let go. It's like with any job. I worked at Walmart. I worked at Target. And despite the fact that I was let go for different reasons, I always appreciate those memories. I always cherish my time and contributions positively that I made there. So it's no different with these talents that want to go elsewhere. They want to get out of their contracts early and go elsewhere because they see, hey, there's more opportunity, in WWE, there's more opportunity in MLW, TNA, or vice versa, more opportunity in AEW creatively, to grow, to expand. And again, that's what some of these fans, these hardcore fans, these sickos, these drones as they're called, they don't get. It's not about the fact that these individuals that are cryptically hinting that they want out, or they kind of made it known that they want out, or whatever the case may be. It's not the fact that they disdain the place they're in now, or they're going to have a hatred for it. No, they're always going to have appreciation for it. They're always going to have loyalty to it. But they just want to explore other horizons. I mean, it's like you and me. Let's say we feel like we're not, reaching our full potential at a Target or a Walmart or a McDonald's or a Burger King. I know those two are kind of crazy examples, but you get the idea. Or elsewhere, or we feel like we're not reaching our full potential at this at this studio, this corporation, even though we're at the highest of highs position-wise, you know, if we feel like we're not reaching our full potential and we feel, hey, going elsewhere will allow us to reach it and give us more opportunity, then that's our choice. That's our choice to make. But it doesn't mean we're not going to, regate on, the memories we had, where we were previously. We're going to cherish those memories. We're going to cherish all the positive outcomes and positive things we were a part of there. It doesn't mean we're against it. It doesn't mean, we're gonna, become so totally disloyal. We're gonna act like, we never worked there. We don't care about that place. We hope it goes out of business. No, people are not like that. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say people are not like that. There are some people that are, especially the very bitter. But basically, in regular business, sports, and all that, folks are fine. Folks are pretty much okay, with where they were, before they move on. They're always going to be appreciative of what they did, the positive outcomes and influences they made before they move on. So that's what some people have to understand. Yeah, I get it. It's about loyalty and being a hardcore wrestling fan for most of your life, even back in the days of ECW, and WCW. Being a hardcore wrestling fan, you feel that person should be staying in that company for the entire career, and not go anywhere else. And I get it. I totally do. But again, but again, people have to understand, if you see a bigger opportunity on the horizon, to expand more, to grow more, then who are you as fans to tell them, don't do it, stay, this is where you belong? Or who are you as fans to say, oh, you're a fraud, I thought so highly of you, and now I don't like you. In fact, truthfully, your moveset sucked. When just the other week or just the other day, you're like, oh yeah, this person's great, the moveset is awesome, I hope they become champ, and all that. It's like it's like I said earlier, you pull a complete 180, all because you look at the fact that when somebody starts with a company and stays with that company for a majority of their run, 5, 6, 7, 10 years, you feel that person should be loyal to that company and stay in that company till they hang it up. And that's not always the case. Look at some notable names, okay? Look at some notable names. Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan. Yeah, they came back to WWE and pretty much ended their careers there. But guess what? They went to WCW. And they were longtime mainstays. They were longtime mainstays. And you can't tell me that when they went to WCW, that there weren't WWE fans, drones as they're called, that were upset about it. They were. They're like, oh, how dare you do that? You're supposed to be with WWF for life. And that's not always the case. I mean, let's take a look at Nick Nemeth. Nick Nemeth, shout out to Nick Nemeth. He was looked at as a lifer with WWE. Guess what? He's now in TNA. He's one half of the tag champions with his brother Ryan. And before that, he was the world champion. And during that time as well, he was also the AAA Mega Champion. So, and even though he may have his indifference about the partnership between TNA and WWE, people looked at him as a lifer. They never thought he'd go anywhere, but yet, here we are. Here we are. He is now in TNA, still has connections to WWE, if you will, if he wants it, but, he's moved on. He's gone on and done other things. He's gone on to prove himself in other companies, like AAA, like, New Japan, and so on. He's gone to do that, and guess what? He's not only proven people that he still has, the chops, if you will. He still has the chops, to go go into the ring and put on a great match and all that. And my computer just went on to give me notifications, so I do apologize for that distraction. But not only has he proven that he can go out and have, still have some spectacular matches no matter where he's at, but he's able to reinvent himself. He's able to explore other options now. Heck, he's now a co-host on Sirius XM's Busted Open Radio. That's something he probably wouldn't have done if he'd stayed in WWE. So look, do you think Nick you think Nick regrets everything he accomplished in WWE? No, he's accomplished everything that's known to man. He's been the world champion, he's been the Intercontinental champion, the U.S. champion, a tag champ. He's done it all. He's done it all. So, so for people to look at him and think, oh, I thought he was going to be a lifer. I didn't think he'd be released, or I didn't think, they'd let him go. But look at him now. And do you think like I said, do you think he regrets all the positiveness, all the accomplishments he did, and he did, and all that, the positiveness he's made, in WWE before letting that go? No, he doesn't regret that. He cherishes that. He cherishes that every day. It's because of those moments and opportunities and stuff that he did there that he got the opportunity in New Japan. He got the opportunity in AAA. He got the opportunity in TNA. The point I'm getting at is, at the end of the day, just because somebody that's been with one company for a long time, or since its inception, or since its rise to prominence, just because that individual might decide, hey, I want to go elsewhere, and they're going to ask for the release, they'll get out of the contract early, it doesn't mean you should be against them. It doesn't mean you should, basically do a 180 on them. Instead, what it means is you should be happy for them. You should be encouraging that wherever they're going to go next, they become just as big a success, if not more. So that way, if they do come back to the company they originated from, they made a name for themselves since its inception. If they do come back, guess what? Their value will skyrocket even more. The people that didn't give them opportunities to showcase what they can do will see that, hey, they accomplished this when they were outside of the company. Guess what? We're gonna have them accomplish, we're gonna have them accomplish that even more here in the company. So there's always gonna be a full circle moment, whether you believe that or not. If they choose that. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be, discouraging towards them. You should be encouraging. You shouldn't be 180ing them. You should be more pushing for them to, achieve their dreams. But again, like I said, it all goes back to loyalty. That's what it goes back to. It goes back to loyalty. And it goes back to loyalty that, obviously, if you were a diehard wrestling fan in the mid to late 90s to early 2000s, the loyalty that started when fans at ECW events or other events like ECW would chant, "Please don't go to certain talent." And again, I'll say this: if it wasn't for that, I guarantee you, I can almost promise you, I can almost guarantee you, if fans didn't start chanting that at the ECW events that were filmed, released on television, released on VHS, and even early DVD, if it wasn't for fans doing that, I guarantee you, maybe we wouldn't be in the situation where we are now, where fans will suddenly do a 180 on someone like a Britt Baker, or an Aleister/Malachi Black, or a CM Punk, or a Cody Rhodes, or an Ethan Page, or Blake Monroe, aka Mariah May. They won't all suddenly do a 180 if it wasn't for those very fans in Extreme Championship Wrestling back in the mid 90s to early 2000s. Because, to them, they're the reason that we have fans today that are loyal to one promotion over the other, even if they do watch both, and why those fans act the way they do when they should know better, when they should be more encouraging. Now, people might say, oh, they're just trolling just because they want to troll and they know better than that. That might be true. That probably is more than likely true. But trolling or not, again, You should be more encouraging and happy for someone getting an opportunity to expand their horizons. That's how I look at it. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube, as well as click on the links to the Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Again, guys, I do apologize if I was a little all over the place here. Again, it's early. It's now 6:35 a.m. as I'm wrapping this up. But let me know what your thoughts are on what I had to say. Comment below. Like I said, comment in the live chat if you haven't already. And like I said, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, guys, I'll talk to y'all later.